Simon and Garfunkel, you okay with that? Okay, yeah, good music. They had a song called The 7 O'Clock News and Silent Night, and maybe you've heard it. The song begins with that incredible harmony of those two singing Silent Night, and gradually a voice in the background gets louder and louder. It's someone reading the evening news, the 7 o'clock news. And as it gets louder, you hear about torment, you hear about violence, you hear about murder, you hear all those really depressing, dark things in life. And it's a very chilling song in some ways, because that news just gets louder, and the song Silent Night, Holy Night, all is calm, all is bright, just fades and fades, but it's still there in the end. So I want to come back to that song in a bit. And I think we all think that our times are the most difficult times. Our times are the most violent times. And it was in times like those. In fact, I remember that someone had a dream that a tornado was going to come through the Graceland campus and cause destruction. And the weird thing was that a few nights after the dream, a radio announcement the next morning said there'd been a tornado in Lamoni. Well, the newsreader, or the reader of the news, or the newscaster, had mispronounced Lamont, because there had been, in Lamont, there was a tornado. And so, actually, a couple kids left campus because they were just, they were afraid that the tornado was going to come, and they believed in this dream as prophetic. They left campus. Other people made a lot of fun of all that, how stupid that was, how silly it was. We actually had a big meeting with the campus pastor, who was trying to say, folks, God doesn't really work in this way to send tornadoes to wreak havoc or send destruction upon evil people or whatever it was. And even those of us who didn't leave campus and kind of laughed at the jokes about those who believed in it, we kind of checked the sky and looked over our shoulders, and we're in that place of, well, it could be. That was the days when, I know I'm going back several years here, but there was a book called The Late Great Planet Earth. It was basically about the end times. Well, you go to any shelf today in a bookstore, you're going to find those kinds of books. And so every generation, that last earthquake means Jesus is coming back soon. It means the end is coming soon. That's been true since Jesus was around and before Jesus. So we need to be a little careful about that. We're going to get to a scripture here in a little bit. A little caveat. I used to be really judgmental about that when I got sort of progressive and more grounded and more theological. I got kind of judgmental about people who were worried about the end times. And there are certain classes of people in which I'm still pretty judgmental about that. But I worked in Africa, in Latin America, for a number of years. And you know what? I met people who lived on the precipice every day. It's like, make sure that the kids are going to get through the night. Make sure we've got enough food tomorrow. And when some of them talked about the end times, and when some of them talked about the rapture and how Jesus might come back and take the faithful up, I got a little less judgmental, because I realized if I lived like that, why wouldn't I hope that Jesus might come back tomorrow, and if I'd tried to be good, that Jesus would just lift me up and take me out of this mess. So we come to this scripture, and relax. I don't usually read my scriptures at the beginning of the sermon, so we're getting on down there here. But the scripture, in some ways, could be written for somebody in the world, for somebody in this room, right here tonight. And if I can find, I'm going to read a little bit of it to you. So Paul is in Athens, actually. And he has sent Timothy off to Thessalonica to be with these brand new Christians. And, they've got a lot to learn, and Paul was just with them a few weeks, and they're coming along, and he's excited. But when Timothy comes back, he realizes, whoa, there's some doctrinal things that we need to talk about. And one of them, they were very concerned about if my child, my father, my mother has died, and Jesus hasn't come back yet, but they're gone, will they be saved? And so Paul's kind of trying to set them straight on a little bit of doctrine. I wish Paul would set me straight on some of this. But he says, I don't think, friends, that I need to deal with the question of when all this is going to happen. You know as well as I that the day of the Master's coming can't be posted on our calendars. He won't call ahead and make an appointment any more than a burglar would. About the time everybody's walking around complacently congratulating each other, we've sure got it made, now we can take it easy, suddenly everything will fall apart. It's going to come as suddenly and inescapably as birth pangs to a pregnant woman. And I'm going to skip a little bit. God didn't set us up for an angry rejection, but for salvation by our Master Jesus Christ. He died for us, a death that triggered life. Whether we're awake with the living or asleep with the dead, we're alive with Him. So speak encouraging words to one another. Build up hope so you'll all be together in this. No one left out, no one left behind. I know you're already doing this. Just keep on doing it. Okay, hang with me a little bit. I know it's 7:40, it's Sunday afternoon, and I'm not as clear as I was this morning or yesterday at the wedding. But I want to try to grapple with something here. So you come to Graceland, or I'll just say that because you may come from really different circumstances. So I came to Graceland, and I had to put away some childish things, some black and white views of reality that really weren't black and white. And it was not difficult to begin to get a bit cynical or a bit discouraged or even a bit depressed about some of the realities that I had not yet faced in life. And it was good and important, I will say, to read some of the literature which I read, which showed me the really dark side of humanity and the suffering and violence in the world. If you haven't read, for example, Elie Wiesel's Night, read it. It will show you the extremities of our inhumanity. So it's important to grapple with those things. But I think the greatest writers and the greatest preachers and the greatest humans are people who know and do not shy away from the realities of what we can do to each other and what nature can do to us. And break apart a lot of our images of a God that we'd like to hold warm and fuzzy and close. And sometimes God does that to us. I don't deny that at all. But what I want to say, and what I think the great writers have said, I just grappled, and I'm not sure I won, but reading the Divine Comedy by Dante. And what Dante does is he takes you to the depths of hell, and there are images that would just, like, for us they're bizarre, but he takes you poetically and imaginatively to the worst of the worst. But gradually, through his own honesty and through his own struggles and growth with the poet Virgil, he takes you on to the entry into paradise. And I think the greatest humans are people who say there's a choice of looking at life as tragedy or as comedy. And by comedy, I don't mean what you laugh about. Sure, there's laughter there, but it's about choosing to live or realizing there's no hope. And I think the message and the role for us as Christians or as searchers and seekers is to say, even if I don't feel it, I don't believe it, I'm going to take the faith step that says life matters, to say that ultimately good will prevail